Welcome to the March meeting of the Board Committee on Academic and Student Affairs. The meeting is hereby called to order. May I ask the secretary to call the roll, please?
Thank you. Regent Bloom?
Present.
Regent James?
Present.
Regent Porras will be joining us momentarily.
Okay.
And we do have a quorum. I would also like to take a moment to recognize our ex officio member, Professor Sinker. Thank you.
Thank you. First item, I'm sorry. We have a quorum. The first item of business is approval of the minutes of the February 14th meeting of the committee. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing no comments, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved. Next item is the enrollment report, which appears in the package. We're talking about the enrollment now report for spring 2025, the current semester. Dr. Blanchard?
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Can you see the spreadsheet in front of you?
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so this is the enrollment and completions report for spring 25. You'll see a great amount of data in your packet, but what I'm going to do on the screen is simply show you some highlights because there's a lot of data, but I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you may have. So you can see, first of all, we're showing the enrollments for each of our institutions, and you'll see on the far right that for the spring, we're at 63,906 credit-bearing students. Unfortunately, I don't have the non-credit programs here. We're still working on systems that can gather that data. But of the 63 or almost 64,000 students in the spring, 27,000 of them are at our universities. Almost 2,000 of them are at Charter Oak, and 34,399 are at CT State. That's pretty good numbers. Let's see, spring statistics, not shown on this slide, but the spring to spring increase has been 4% this year, which is excellent. And I'll explain a little bit more later. Central had an increase spring to spring of 5.8%. Eastern had an increase spring to spring of 2.1%. Southern's increase spring to spring was 2.6%. Western's spring to spring increase was 7.2%. Very impressive numbers for Western, very encouraging for them. CT State's spring to spring numbers were 3.5%. Again, I don't have Charter Oak's spring numbers yet because their census date is on March 31st. So we'll report those later in the semester at a later meeting. Now, one of the factors that I think people are talking about, particularly the news media, is what's been driving our increases. People are a bit surprised by these large increases. We've had a pretty strong increase in our concurrent enrollment program. So I already took down the numbers. I'd have to go dig them up. But if we took away the increase, if we did not consider the concurrent enrollment increases, Central's spring to spring would be 1.69, Eastern's would be 1.79, Southern's would be 2.43, and Western's would be 4.53. So the point here is that despite the fact that we've had very strong increases in dual and concurrent enrollments, our strong increases in enrollments are still positive for the sort of traditional student. So we feel very good that our enrollments are rebounding from the pandemic, and we hope to see that continue. You'll see in terms of the certificate headcount, this is certificates for credit. CT State has about 1,100 certificate students for credit. Central has about 410. Southern has 211, and Western has a very small number, totaling 629 for the universities and about 1,100 for the community college. The graduate count is 4,531. You can see how they are distributed across our universities, with Southern having the most number of graduate students, Central having 1,700 graduate students, Western with over 500, and Eastern with a modest number of 183. Our first-time, full-time, first-year, first-time students, undergraduate students, is a large number, totaling almost 12,000 first-year, first-time undergraduate students. About 4,000 of those at our universities, and almost 8,000 of those first-time students at CT State. So that's very encouraging. Again, consistent with our increased numbers. So this is this speaks to the number of students that we will see for the universities over the next 4 years or more, for CT State over the next 2 years. In terms of our first-gen students, our first-gen undergraduate students, a third of our community college students are first-gen. About a quarter of our university students are first generation, and that across the system entirely, almost a third. So that's also very encouraging. If you want to look at the ethnicity breakdown, we are a majority minority institution. You'll see the non-white students at CT State is about 60%. The non-white students at Charter Oak equal the majority students. And at our universities, our majority students are at 54%, suggesting a very strong non-white percentage of 46%. And you see how those are distributed at our universities with, you'll see how those are distributed, almost 50-50 at our universities, white versus non-white. That's a nice number, nice mix. In terms of our Handley PAC data, we're slow to get these data because they are, we have to get them at an individual student level. So it takes us longer to get the individual student level data relative to simply counting those individual students. So to get the financial aid and PAC numbers, we will have those later in the semester as well. But in terms of those students who have Pell Awards at CT State, 44% of CT State students received the Pell Award this semester, 43% for Charter Oak, and almost 40%, 39% for our universities. So nearly 42% of our students system-wide receive Pell. This is the population of students we serve. In terms of retention, these retention rates are pretty decent. First-year retention rate for CT State is 65%, a bit lower than our first-year retention rate for the universities at 77%. Eastern being notable for its very high retention rates of 84%. These kind of retention rates mirror R1 retention rates, particularly at UConn. In terms of our transfers, we're seeing 14% transfer rates out of CT States to universities. Unfortunately, I do not have the report on where they are going, but I can tell you that, where did I put my report? I can tell you that in terms of the CT State campuses with the largest number of transfer rates, Manchester students transfer out at 19% rate. Middlesex transfers their students out at 18%. And 3 campuses at CT State, Housatonic, Naugatuck Valley, and Tunxus, they all see 17% transfer rates. So this is a priority of the board, we know, and an initiative that we're continuing to work on under the leadership of Ainsley Diamond. In terms of graduation rates, I'm not really highlighting the community college graduation rates because these are tricky numbers to consider. But to the extent that you treat community college students like we do university students, their 3-year graduation rates at 18%. At our universities, we're graduating about 50% of our students within a 6-year time period. And that suggests that there are part-time students that take longer to get their degrees than the full-time students. And if I can go back, you can see the extent to which we have part-timers and full-timers at each of our universities. As a whole, system-wide, 34,000 of our 64,000 students are part-timers. If you look over here at CT State, 2/3 of CT State's enrollments are part-time. Almost all, 1,200 out of 1,900 at Charter Oak are part-time. And at our universities, about a little under a third of our university students are part-time. So that's what drags up, or rather drags down, the graduation rates to 50%. In terms of completions, now these completions data are for the spring of 24. So they graduated back in the spring, and we usually don't pull these data together until around August. We have a large number of programs. In your packet, you will see program by program data. But what I've done here is simply collapse them into zip codes: biology, business, computer science, engineering. You can see the categories. But I've highlighted in yellow those areas that I believe are strategic priorities: business and some of the high technology areas. So you could see CT State had 978 business graduates. They had 250 computer science graduates, 525 engineering technology graduates, and over 1,000 healthcare graduates. You can see that of those strategic areas, Charter Oak graduates about 100 business students and about 129 health-related students. And our universities, of course, universities are producing about 1,100 business graduates each year. Still a small number of computer and information science graduates. They produce as much as CT State does, at least this past spring. If you look at our engineering programs, only Central State, Connecticut State University, has an engineering program of any significance. So of these 116 graduates, almost all of them graduated from Central. Southern has a very small number. So in the engineering fields, if you want to consider both computer and information sciences and engineering and technology, we're looking at about 502 plus 6, about 1,100 graduates in the technology areas. But encouragingly, across the system, we graduated 2,000 students in the healthcare field. 800, almost 800 of those were from our universities, and as I said earlier, almost 1,100 from CT State. So you'll see that in conclusion, well, no, I've got a little bit more. You'll see that in total, over here to the right, we graduate about 12,000 students per year. About 6,300 from our universities, 5,500 from CT State, and 576 from Charter Oak. And you can see in terms of the universities, Central and Southern are graduating over 2,000 students per year. Eastern, almost 900 students, and Western, almost 950 students. So we are producing a large number of graduates that enter the workforce every year, get good jobs, and remain in Connecticut, producing economic impact in Connecticut. In terms of the share of our graduates in these various fields, I'm going to just look to the right here. 18.7% of our graduates system-wide get business degrees. 2.8% of our graduates receive computer and information science degrees. And 17% of our graduates receive healthcare-related degrees. So we are really doing a good job in terms of the strategic areas, to the extent, obviously, that we can make investments in these strategic areas. We should be able to generate more graduates in these strategic areas. So with that, I will unshare my screen and take whatever questions you may have of me.
Dr. Blanchard, thank you very much. Questions of Dr. Blanchard from the Regents? or
Ira,
comments?
it's Rick. It's Rick Porth. Thank
Welcome,
you.
Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. I do. This is a good report. Thank you, Lloyd. When we talk about graduation rates, how are the growing number of certificates and credentials? How do they relate to the discussion when we talk about graduation rates? Do we measure successful outcomes with regard to our growing efforts on credentials and credits?
That's a very good question, Regent Porth. I do not believe, although I want to confirm this, I do not believe our certificate students are counted within our graduation rates that we report to the federal government IPED system. So I do not believe they're included in there. I do not know the statistics on the timing of the graduation of certificate students, because those certificates can be 6-month certificates, 1-year certificates, or even 2-year certificates. So, we wouldn't be able to, well, I guess we could compare their rates, but I don't believe they're included in our graduation rates. They're just for our traditional matriculated students.
Understood. And I assume that's done the same way across institutions all across the country, but I
That's correct.
wonder if we could have a separate report or somehow work into this report the successful outcomes we have for the growing number of students who come to us for certificates and licenses and credentials and so forth.
I think that's a good idea. I'll work with the institutional research community in our system to try to figure out the best way to do that report.
I appreciate that. One other quick question, Ira. You talked about, Lloyd, you talked about the part-time status and its impact on our graduation rates. How does that compare to other comparable institutions across the country? And so, for example, how long does it take a typical or an average community college student in the country to get a degree? And how do we compare to that? Do we know that?
I'm afraid I do not know that. If there is someone on the call that may know that, please chime in. Ainsley, do you have any sense of this?
So, I mean, that's a real big question, Regent Porth. And I think that you're talking about a lot of variables. There are definitely national reports that we can share with you. Like Dr. Blanchard talked about, we have access to national IPEDS data. There's other databases that are out there. As far as the compare and contrast, it gets a little in the weeds, but if that is data that you're interested in, I will not inundate you with the reports we have access to, but we definitely can have a further conversation to look deeper into those statistics about where Connecticut stands as far as completion rate data go.
I would appreciate it.
I can chime in. It depends on programmatic, what program they're in, Rick. And typically students that are on a track for transfer to a university, it's a 3-year completion, 2.5 to 3-year completion. But if it's a specialized program, it may take a little bit longer, typically 18 months to 2 years. So there's different things based on different programs, but we can get information to this committee about that. But it depends on the programmatic effort of the student and also which program they're attached to. But there is information out there. We can get that out there to everybody.
Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate it, everyone.
Yeah, no problem. That's easy to get.
Other questions or comments?
I thought I saw.
I can appreciate how difficult this data is to get, because as the demographics of higher education are changing, I think many institutions are trying to answer these questions. I was going to ask the same question that Rick did, but I'm actually happy to hear that there's something available that you can start reporting on.
So this report is, as we go through multiple iterations of reporting these data out and you want to see different data, we'll continue to amend the format of the report so that we can incorporate those items of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Blanchard. If there's nothing further on questions on this matter, we will move to the next item on the agenda, which
Great.
is the.
Thank you, folks. Signing off.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
The Food Insecurity Report, AVP Mara and AVP O'Day Stevens.
Good morning,
Hi.
everyone. I'll get us started. I am Leslie Mara. I'm currently Associate Vice President for System-Wide Initiatives and Sponsored Programs. I'm delighted to be following a report about enrollment because I'm here to talk about us giving the same rigor to retention strategies that we give to enrollment and the same care, time, and attention. So I'm thrilled to be here. Since I don't know this committee, I am an attorney by training, so please do not hold that against me. I've been here about 10 years, but I have had significant government experience, so I'm very familiar with human services. I was a deputy commissioner for administration with the budget and admin under me for a number of years. I was the superintendent of the Connecticut Juvenile Training School, and most recently, before coming here just a short 10 years ago, I was the Deputy Secretary of the State. So I do understand program implementation, and I understand the rich fabric of community services that we have in Connecticut and how our students can tap into it. I'm going to give you a few high points in terms of what the system has been doing since 2019, where we are currently, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. O'Day Stevens to tell you where she's going to be taking us next. Our journey as a system began in 2019 when we received a grant from the Lumina Foundation to assess non-academic barriers to student success, including food insecurity. At that time, it was focused on the 12 independent community colleges. What we found out wouldn't surprise anybody. We found out that there was a lot of good work going on, but that some institutions didn't have pantries, some didn't focus on food at all, some had quite a lot and had extensive community partnerships. And so since that time, we've been working to convene and to help the campuses all develop a response to food insecurity. And so in 2022, I believe, we received our first ever system donation to food insecurity, and that came from Stop and Shop. They gave us $100,000, and they were very excited about having a system-wide impact. Being able to leverage ourselves as a system is very attractive to funders. So they gave us $100,000 and made allocations across our campuses based upon the data that they received from us. The next year, they gave us $133,000, and this past year, they gave us $156,500. This is a big, big part of what each campus is able to do in terms of their pantries. We now have pantries at all of our campuses, and they have really taken a look at what the students need and how to reach them, and have responded in a variety of really creative ways. So if you haven't seen the Magic School Bus at Middlesex, you really ought to go down there and see it. We have traditional pantries. Western is serving kosher food. We have online service at many campuses, including Central. They really are doing grab and go snacks, all sorts of things to get to our students. We also have really been helping the institutions to work on developing community partnerships. So I'm particularly proud, and it's not just because Regent Porth is here, but we reached out prior to the pandemic to United Way. 211 is a really, really valuable resource. And again, I'm really not just saying it because of you, Rick, but I will tell you, it's not your grandmother's 211. And so you're able to go in there, put in your zip code, create an account. You can find out where you can get a hot meal today. So our students, remember, most of them don't live on campus, and even those that do graduate and go back to their communities. If we can get them to be empowered to find resources in their own community, once they find 211, they'll find a whole host of other services there, everything from childcare to mental health support. So we have leaned in hard to that state resource. I think it's a conservative estimate to say that we have trained no fewer than 1,200 people, faculty, staff, students, in using 211 as a resource. And I'm especially proud of that. Most, if not all, of our campuses are also partnered with FoodShare. In the beginning, people were concerned about the paperwork and the obligations, but as people like Sherry Paquette at Nuntuck led the way and helped her colleagues to figure out that this really wasn't difficult, more and more of the institutions have joined that. Not only does it give them fresh food and more reliable source of food for students, it also gives them access to a network from which they have received refrigerators, freezers, and all kinds of other support. We have a partnership with Dignity Grows. Everyone knows hygiene products can be very costly for folks. And so we have that. At least 4 of our campuses are doing that. The connection with community partnership is a place where the system office can play a unique role. So if I found out that one campus has a partnership with Dignity Grows, I can reach out, and we've gotten 3 more on board for that. So we have the ability to do some things that the campuses just don't have the time and bandwidth to do on their own. I also want to mention SNAP employment and training. Pantries are great. Pantries are great. They reduce the stigma. They serve as a hub for students to go and learn about a whole host of other resources. But SNAP employment and training, having every one of our CT State campuses be a SNAP ENT provider, is huge. I think we might have been the first in the nation to have all of our campuses. That resource not only provides tuition and fee waivers, but participant expenses, shoes, uniforms, books, transportation. So I just want to mention that when we're talking about our response to food insecurity, it needs to start with the pantry, but it needs to build out to the community and then to SNAP ENT. The last thing I'll just mention is you have in the report that you were provided, Public Act 22-101 now requires institutions of higher education to do biennial surveys. The good news is our people are already well in tune with what their students need, and they're already addressing it. But this is a more formal mechanism to allow them to assess what students need and to adjust their response accordingly. So I will stop at this point and turn it over to Dr. O'Day Stevens for how she's working with councils and beginning to move this work forward.
Dr. Stevens?
Good morning, everyone. Tamara O'Day Stevens, and I am the Associate Vice President for Enrollment and Student Success. So I have the pleasure of working with the Student Success Council, with the System Office, and we just launched this the Student Success Council this past December. We've had 2 meetings. We're going on our 3rd one this coming month. And our initial conversation started with talking about the different resources that the campuses are using, utilizing, and seeking long-term that students need for further support on our campuses. And so our initial conversations really did start with what are our resources that our students are utilizing, what are our resources that we're lacking for our students, and obviously food was one of our first conversations. Food, housing insecurity, and we also talked about mental health supports, and we also talked about other various resources. So I'm going to first talk about food and food insecurity because that was one of the topics that we first talked about as a group. We talked about SNAP and SNAP training. I think one of the first conversations I ever had with Leslie was about 211, and she brought the trainer to CT State when I was working at CT State, and then we worked with our Director of Mental Health, Dr. Uhas, to then broaden that training. We brought that to the deans of students and the associate deans, and then we also did a bunch of faculty training through the PD shop, which I oversaw at CT State. So a bunch of people got trained on 211, and I actually learned a whole bunch of new resources in the state of Connecticut. And we actually had a person that we could connect with when we had a question. And housing was a big one that people thought there was no connection in the state to, and we actually had a person to call, which students were like, wow, I have someone to actually speak to. I don't just call this number and it goes to like a dead link or a dead, there was actually somebody to talk to. So going forward on the SNAP and food front, one of the next steps for the Student Success Council and the team is a discussion about our communication. So one of the things on the campuses that we talked about was students know about these resources, but how are we going to broaden our communication and our marketing plans to students? How are we going to get this out to students in a better, more succinct format? And how are we as a team going to get that communication out differently and better to our campuses? We have a Student Success Summit planned with the Student Success Council in May, where we're going to really sit and dive a little bit deeper about those communication plans. There's a lot of ways students consume our information and they take in communication through our different channels. And so we're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper. One of the things we're looking at is how do we utilize our Blackboard shells where our students receive information on a daily basis. So putting information about food insecurity, our food pantries, SNAP within our Blackboard shells. We put information on our syllabi that our students receive from their faculty. They use these things called Discord channels. A lot of faculty are not on these Discord channels. It's where students share information on our campuses. I know my sons are on various Discord channels at Central, so maybe we can put some information out there. They're kind of like a hot way where students communicate on our campuses. There's various welcome emails that go out from our provosts and from our campuses each and every semester. There are orientation programs. There are student activities emails that go out from our student activities offices. So we're really going to look at a comprehensive way in which we communicate these resources to our students and make sure that each of our campuses are looking at how they're communicating these resources to our students. And we're putting together more of a package of how each campus is putting that forth. Because I think what we're doing right now is people are doing them differently on each campus, but if we can do those in a more succinct way, and that we're looking at the different ways that students are consuming our information and our communications, that would be really good. Putting them forth in our financial aid communications is also really important. We put out financial aid award letters, and most of our campuses are putting that information there, and students are reading those resources too, because that's where their money is. They're getting their award letters, and if they're reading in there that they're also aware of where their money is coming from and that there's support with food and funding, that's another place that we can put that communication. So those are different things that the Student Success Council is looking forward to doing. I will then be taking the Public Act 22101 survey with this group and looking this fall to then relaunch the next iteration of that'll be shared with the board. So that'll be the next steps with the Student Success Council. The other area that we're looking at as a group is mental health and wellness, and we'll be taking a deeper dive on that particular subject. And that was one of the topics they talked about, as well as tutoring and academic support on the campuses. Those were the two arenas that we started talking about as a team, that were the areas that they felt we needed to take our first looks at as resources on the campuses that were impacting student success on our campuses. So those are the two big areas that we really wanted to take a deeper dive in. So wanted to share today with the team that those were the areas that we were looking at as a Student Success Council, and more information will be obviously brought back to ASA as we're doing that. In addition, SAC, which is the Student Advisory Committee, those areas aligned with the survey that the students are looking to do for the system. So the students have already met, I think, about 4 times with their subcommittee, and the areas that the students have identified that they want to put on their survey also match the areas that the Student Success Council has also identified that they want to take a deeper dive, which is really nice because the survey that students are going to do is also going to dovetail with the areas that the Student Success Council is taking a deeper dive. We're also looking at the resources, the modules, maybe some of the different technologies that we use in the student affairs sites and the student affairs locations on the campuses to see what we're using, and maybe some of the modules that we may need to look at long term to support student success. and leverage some of those as well on some of our campuses, because some campuses have certain modules and others do not, that they may need to track some of our student success shops. So those are some of the things that are going on right now that we're discussing. I
Thank
didn't know if
you.
anybody had any questions.
See, questions or comments from the regents? Regent Porth.
Well, so I first want to say thank you. This was a really good report, and it's encouraging because retention is a key priority of all of us, but also it's the right thing to do for our students. And it's obvious that you've worked hard and you're working to access all different kinds of resources. Appreciate the mention of 211. I'm so glad to hear that you're using their resources too. I would say that over the years they've done more and more crisis intervention. So mental health and wellness related issues, you can get resources there too, including direct service via 211 or other access points for students who might be having issues. And so, but overall, Ira, I just wanted to say thank you. This is a good report and very encouraging. Thanks.
Thank you, Regent Porth. Regent
I
James.
don't, thank you, Ira. I commend us on this progress. Many years ago, Leslie and I talked about the importance of wraparound services in terms of retention. That was based on a model that my foundation worked with President Levinson at Norwalk Community College and President Brody at Housatonic Community College. And it was a set of wraparound services where we saw a 30% improvement in retention for the students that were part of those cohort groups. And Leslie, I remember you and I having some discussions when they decided to do the consolidation of CT State of the community colleges and how important it was to have these wraparound support services as part of the work. And you and I were arguing that it needed to be in the first round in order for this consolidation to be successful. And we were overruled by others who said, from a financial standpoint, it needed to be second or third round. And I really do think, had we started with that, we might have seen a less painful, a less traumatic transition to the consolidation of CT State. I hope that we still have some memory, institutional memory, of the success of the models of those programs in terms of what it did for overall retention for the community college population. I would imagine it would be just as well suited for the four-year institutions. But it was because it was a program specifically targeted to the student that was working, supporting a family, trying to advance their educational achievements and credentials in order for them to step to a higher level of learning. And I think there is more opportunity to not only expand these services, but this is an opportunity to partner with philanthropy, because the philanthropic institutions were very supportive of these extra efforts to improve retention. And the way we were able to mitigate the cost at both NCC and HCC was through that partnership with the foundations. So I'm happy to see that we're really paying attention to food insecurity, but I think, as Leslie knows, there are many more, and you too, Tamara, many more opportunities we can provide in terms of academic counseling, career counseling, financial, stability that would help us to dramatically improve the retention. So keep working at this. I'm very glad to see that you're finally getting people to pay attention.
Regent James, you make me smile because I may not have won the first round, but I'm still here.
I'm glad to see that. I'm very happy to see that. So, but keep this up because it actually does make a huge difference. Because people who are motivated to go to community college or go to college in the first place, they're motivated because they want to gain skills, they want to learn. And when they leave, it's not because they're not motivated, it's because so many other distractions and life pressures prevent them from continuing on the path. So I'm glad to see that we're finally getting the attention that these students are actually the ones who need the most support and who gain the most progress, and they're the ones who stay in our state to help drive the economy of the state of Connecticut. So um, happy to see this, want to continue to support it, and and I think as regents, for us to be as vocal as we can be in helping our different constituent groups understand both the importance and the impact of this work. So thank you for sticking with
Um,
it, Tamara. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie.
And I think the retention of a student, I don't think people realize how hard it is to retain students on our campuses. And often when people do a retention exit survey of a student, so when a student is departing, they'll often hear a student say, well, I had financial issues. But if they dig deeper or they peel the onion back, they'll realize a student may have a family issue going on, or the student has no transportation, or the student, and so as you dig deeper into a student situation, there may be 3 other mitigating circumstances that the student did not want to reveal, or they only had one person on the campus that that really supported them. And if you really provide all of those resources to that student, they could have progressed or persisted through that institution. But they just didn't know how to get those resources. And so having them at the ready, or that those resources for that student, we could really pull a lot of our students through our systems. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of resources, and sometimes they're very costly. And so we have to have them sitting and ready, and the students need to know where they are and how to get them. And more of
one,
our staff training to hand them to them.
you know, one group we haven't really talked about, but in a former life, we were involved in these kinds of retention efforts also, are the stop outs.
Yep.
There's students who, for the reasons you were just talking about, Tam, were, stop out, don't drop out, but intend to come
Yep.
back. And we had considerable success in working with, reaching out to that group and bringing a number of them back by, making it easier, trying to eliminate some of the bureaucratic issues that involved in their returning to the campus. And that we had some remarkable success stories with the stop outs. That's, that we brought back in. I believe very strongly that retention in some ways is more important to us than the recruiting of the new students. I mean, keeping the students we have and moving them through the system to a successful conclusion is what we're about. So I think
Yeah.
this type of effort. The one question I had, Tamara, was who was on the Student Success Council? Who was represented on the Student Success Council that you're working with?
We have deans of students, vice presidents for student affairs. We have a couple representatives from our TRIO programs from across the state. So it's a nice diverse group from across our system. And right now at CT State, we have Sarah Hansen from Middlesex, as they are in the process of hiring their vice provost for student affairs. So we have a great mix of individuals from across the system. So primarily your student affairs leads. And folks that work in our student affairs shops.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody from the Student Affairs Council from SAC?
From SAC? No, we don't have, you mean the student group? No,
Yes.
we don't have any students on there right now. I'm planning on, we've only met a couple times because it just launched, Ira, but the hope is to have students come and have some intersectionality with the students as this progresses. But I first wanted to meet with the group and have them create more of a scaffold before I intersected the two groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a plan for that to happen because they can't do their work in a silo. They need
That's, yeah.
student voice, and the students need them. They need to work in tandem for this to be successful.
Yeah. And Ira, I'm glad you had something about the Stop App, because even prior to President Brody, now I'm going way back to Anita Glenecki when she was president of HCC, and they determined that one of the challenges of students dropping out and coming back was that they had to start again. And they experimented with using online tools for self-paced so that students could pick up where they left off rather than just having to start and earn the credits and pay, for the credits all over again. And I don't know what happened to that. And I think it is one of the challenges. We have so much turnover. We lose the institutional memory of initiatives and experiments that worked. And instead of building on them, we reinvent the wheel over and over again. So there's got to be a better way of building on the successes of the past for all of our institutions.
Yeah, and keeping the momentum going in this.
Yes.
One of the things
That's a great
I think,
point. Like when somebody comes back and they don't know who to go to, Juanita, like you just said, like who's their person? Thinking about even myself as an undergrad, who was my person that I went to when I had a problem? And if you go back after being out for a year or two and you go to find your person, they don't work there anymore. Who do they go to and who do they trust? Sorry, Ira, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, I was about to
Agent
say, one of the things that I think you can make clear to the people you're working with is that this committee will press on with its interest in this area in student retention and student success. So
Thank you.
we need to, and Leslie as well, we need to keep people aware of that. And these types of problems are just what you're talking about, Tamara. Who does the student go to?
Mhm.
And maybe we need to have something on each campus's website saying, if you're planning to return, talk to
Yeah.
Professor Smith or somebody by name with a link to an email address and a phone number that they can actually contact. Because I'm sure we have these people on the campuses, but it's again part of the question of does a student looking to come back know where to go
Mm-hmm.
and whom to talk to. So if there are no further any further comments or questions from the Regents, I thank you both for a very helpful report. We will pursue, as I've talked with tomorrow, we're going to pursue the mental health and the tutoring issues to create a package of these programs. So that will be the next steps that we will take.
Thank you for your support on all this. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, item 5, the honorary degrees. We will have a motion for these as a group. I want to point out that the Northwestern honorary degree, I'm sure everybody saw this, is being awarded to our former board chair, Joanne Ryan. So for her exemplary service, not only with us, but in a number of other areas in the Northwestern part of the state. So if I can have a motion, the criteria for the honorary degrees, by the way, are found on pages 12 and 13 of the package. These degrees have been each been recommended by the head of the campus and by the chancellor, and come to us for final endorsement. Motion to approve.
So
I'm
moved.
happy to move that. Yeah, second.
Second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved to go to the full board. Thank you. Southern, Dr. Irwin, are you here? Is she here?
I'm here.
Okay, good. Welcome. I just want to make a few introductory comments. Southern has a great deal to be proud of in the recent past accomplishments of the campus leadership and the faculty. The most recent being designated as a leading Fulbright recipient. This is quite an accomplishment, and it opens even more importantly, it opens up opportunities for the students that they would not otherwise have. The Fulbright can be a literally game changer for students who have the opportunity to participate. And having been involved in one of these efforts in a former life, this takes work. This doesn't happen by accident. The students have to do the application. There's a whole process the students that have to go through. So that's one. The R2 Carnegie designation, again, quite an accomplishment. I think we have only two R1s in Connecticut, UConn and Yale. We have no other R2s. So again, congratulations to the Southern staff and faculty. And something that's old, but not for you, but not necessarily the AACSB accreditation for the business programs. Another accomplishment that is very hard to achieve. I'm speaking from personal experience. So I congratulate you. You've done quite remarkable work on that campus. So
Thank you so much. It's the talented faculty.
yes, and the faculty. A lot of this is really based on the work of and commitment of the faculty to do these things. So but the whole state. I think there has to be leadership, and there has to be commitment to the faculty to accomplish these things. So congratulations. Now your turn for the academic update, Dr. Owen from Southern.
Yes, thank you. Well, you got ahead of me with the Fulbright, so thank you. So I'll keep this very brief. I have two small things that we're excited about right now. One is that Dr. Emma Cross, who is in our coastal resilience area, excuse me, I have a small cold, has been received an official offer from National Geographic Lindblad Expedition. So National Geographic has a research boat, and she's been invited to be a visiting scientist on board one of their cruises circumnavigating Iceland in July 25, and has been invited to bring two of our students. A second thing I'd like to talk about briefly is our honors college applications are up significantly. So they are up from 40 to 250 this year. So we are planning to increase our cohort from 40 to between 60 and 75. We're seeing so many skilled students. We're having a hard time figuring out how not to take them. And we are looking for recruiting opportunities, including transfers, with the strong possibility of coordinating with Connecticut State for an honors college articulation, because they have a wonderful honors college program. And it's been a little tricky with transfers in the past, but we believe we can get that done. So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Yeah, that I can see that, but I think it's important to make that articulation with CT State. I can understand why it's tricky. So thank you. That's it. Now, your first new program, the User Research and User Interface MS. Dr. Orr?
Yes, so what I'm going to do today, given my tricky voice situation, we have Dr. Dean Kalk here, and he will be able to kind of do initial presentation for both of the programs today. They're within his college, and I'll let him invite faculty to give follow-up. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Dean Kalk to begin with the UX UI, please.
Thank you, Provost Irwin. And can you all hear me?
Yes, we can, Dean Kalk. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. The first program is the MS proposal for user research and user interface. This is a cutting-edge blend of design and technology. I think a very interesting facet of it is the potential for a 4+1 pathway for students from other majors, computer science, communication as examples. We have here today Professors Alex Gerard, the chairperson of our Department of Art and Design, and Professor Melanie Urube. And they can address any more specific or detailed questions you might have for us.
Okay. Do you want to start with presenting the elements of the user research and interface program?
Certainly. Alex or Melanie, could you pick it from there, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Melanie Uribe. So the Masters of Science in User Research and User Interface is going to equip students with advanced skills in UX UI, addressing the growing demand for professionals in tech-driven industries, especially in Connecticut. It is going to emphasize accessibility, inclusivity, and user-centric design. And it is going to prepare students for roles as UX UI designers, product designers, usability, and analysts in diverse sectors. And in page 5 of the report, you can see a wide list of career paths that we have explored that our graduates can go into. The program, as I mentioned, focuses on human-centered design, ethical practices, and emerging technologies. A strong emphasis is going to be on practical applications through real-world projects and portfolio development. So we are already establishing partnerships with NBC Universal, NBC Telemundo, Inbox Hell, and various agencies across the state. We plan on having those collaborations and pathways of the 4+1 accelerated degree. We have partnerships already with the Computer Science Department, the Communication and Media Studies Department. We are exploring other departments within our institution. We have also mapped out how the 4+1 will work with our sister institutions as well. And you can see that in the report on the agenda. Something of impact and distinction for our program is that it is the first program of its kind in Connecticut. It aligns with the state workforce development goals of supporting economic growth by addressing professionals within technology fields. And it really complements existing programs within the Southern institution and the sister institutions of graphic design, communication, computer science, marketing. It also complements really well with psychology programs. So it is a interdisciplinary degree that we know can complement different career trajectories, not just focus on art and design. It is also a unique program in the area of New England because there is no other public institution with a master's degree focusing specifically on UX and UI. They are degrees that have a few courses in their program, but they focus on other aspects of technology or STEM. We are uniquely positioned to integrate AI technologies to enhance the curriculum and the student learning experience. We want to focus on emphasizing and leveraging AI to analyze data sets, to collect surveys, to create user behavior studies. We also want to make sure that our students emphasize the importance of ethical considerations when implementing AI in design and various fields. So we really want to critically engage with topics such as bias, user data privacy, and the transparency of AI systems in our program to ensure that our graduates are skilled and really prepared to address broader applications of technology, because these topics keep just moving on and advancing in current time. Alex, if there's anything that I missed that you would like to add?
Any?
My name is Alex. I'm Chair of Art and Design and also a faculty member in the graphic design area who's sponsoring this. So here to support and champion the cause. And we have the right person at the helm who's given a wonderful overview of the program. So I'm here if there's any departmental support or resource-based questions.
Regent Bloom, if I may, I would
Please.
like to point out that there is a minimal additional cost to the implementation of this program. We will not require further full-time staffing. We have the infrastructure to support the studios that the new master's degree program will need.
Professor Arube, I have a question of you.
Yes.
You have several hats here. You're also director of the Latin American and Caribbean study. Are you able to keep all these hats in the air at the same time? Or
Correct. Yes, I can definitely keep all the hats. My position as director of the Latin American Caribbean Studies program will be extended for just one more year, so that I can fully dedicate myself to coordinate all of the efforts to advance the master's program.
questions from the regents?
Yeah,
Regent
it
Porth?
sounds like a wonderful program. In general, it would be nice for us to put in a process as we to come back and report back to the regents in terms of how these programs have met expectations over some reasonable period of time. Maybe it's on an annual basis so that you have 2 full semesters, because they're very exciting and obviously intended to attract and retain more students. But what I realize is we approve these things that we think are so fantastic, and then we don't kind of really go back and say, all right, did it exceed expectations? Did it meet expectations? What have we learned? So I'd like to see us just build this somewhere into the process for this committee. So, but phenomenal work is going on, and it is very exciting. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this program? Can I have a motion to approve 6B1, the user research and 6B Roman 1, user research and user interface MS program for forwarding to the full board?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Regent Porth. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That program will be recommended to the full board, approved by the committee.
Thank you.
Next, we get to the Archaeology and Cultural Resource Management Program.
Thank you again. And the MS proposal for Archaeology and Cultural Resource Management is another program that would be rather unique. Most master's degree programs in archaeology are set up to train future PhD candidates who aspire to careers and as faculty members. CRM is a different industry from academics. So if you think about the passage of the infrastructure bill, any time that a highway is constructed or expanded, the federal government requires that CRM firms be hired to make certain that there's no disruption to cultural, historic, or Native American sites. This is something we all know intuitively, but there are people behind the scenes who do the work. With merely a bachelor's degree in archaeology, all you can do is knock a stick in the ground under the supervision of somebody who has a graduate degree. That's why it's essential that we have a graduate program in CRM, especially given the aging out of the profession. I'm joined today by 3 of our anthropology faculty. Professors Bill Farley, Mike Rogers, and Kathleen Skozin can all speak more specifically to the details of the program.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you very much. Thanks for hosting us today. It's been really interesting to sit and watch what goes on behind the scenes here. Yeah, we have proposing a really excellent master's in archaeology and CRM. Both programs or both tracks are equally important. I'm going to let Bill Farley and Mike Rogers speak more specifically about the program. They're 2 of our very accomplished archaeologists, different kind of specializations, but it has been a wonderful thing to watch our program grow and flourish in archaeology. And we are looking forward to expanding it to the master's program. I'm going to turn it over to Bill Farley, and then Mike will follow up. And we also have a guest from the state archaeology office. So, Bill.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me as well? No, we have to do that. Thank you so much. Let me start by apologizing. I'm from home because we found out yesterday both my kids and my wife are all positive for COVID. So if one of them comes running in, so I'm at home, I'll go back to nursing after this, which is great. I'll start with a quick thank you to Chairman Bloom and the rest of the committee for hearing us out today, and a huge thank you to my colleagues, supporters like Kathy Labadia in the SHPO office in Connecticut, and other universities, as well as Dean Koch and Provost Irwin in there. It's been a long process to get here, so we're excited to be able to present it to you and get some feedback. So we're looking to open an accessible, affordable, and local option for Connecticut students to get into sustainable and really good paying careers here in Connecticut that have traditionally gone to people outside of Connecticut, frankly. We've had to import people into these jobs for a long time, and we're looking to make that possible for Connecticut residents to actually get these jobs and stay here, which would be better for the economy in general and for our students. As Bruce mentioned, CRM, if you're not aware, is actually quite a large industry. It has about over 10,000 professionals in the United States alone, though it's also an international industry. Many other countries have CRM structures, and we'd be training folks for that as well, in addition to training students that could go on to traditional doctoral programs at big Research One universities. That's what I did. I went to a terminal master's program that was not really oriented towards CRM, so that I could get a PhD. So we're hoping to train folks for that as well as just people who are really passionate, non-traditional students. We actually have a list of around 25 students who have already us that they want to come to this program. And we have not advertised at all. It's just people, we haven't even talked about it really because we didn't want to make promises that we couldn't, necessarily fulfill. Approved. So we've got students, we're not going to have trouble filling chairs is what I would say, which is a great thing. So we're reacting to some extent with this program to this increased infrastructure spending over the last several years that's requiring many more CRM professionals to get into the field, and requests from our partners and friends in industry and in state agencies and federal agencies saying we need people with these master's degrees. Unlike in other fields where you might need to get a credential, in archaeology and CRM, that credential is a master's degree. There's nowhere else to really do that in the state or in very few programs nationally. Mostly you have to go get a PhD. And that's most students cannot afford to do that and do not have the time and the ability to get that done. There is also Dean Koch mentioned a huge aging out problem in CRM, just like many other industries. There's a gray tsunami coming, as they say, silver tsunami, I guess, as they say, and it's already begun. So there's those labor shortages are really getting worse and worse. So without these local programs, Connecticut's firms and the agencies are really unable to compete with out-of-state agencies, and those agencies and firms in places like Rhode Island are going to come and sort of outbid our local folks. The program's also really, really flexible. As we were just hearing with Southern's other great program, we're also developing it as a 4+1 accelerated pathway for Southern students, trying to work with our partners and other universities in the state, within our system and outside, to create easy pathways for those students into this master's program. We have partnerships and pathways directly into jobs for students. So we have an internship program structured right into this, where students would work out in the industry where they want to work and hopefully go directly into a job after graduating. We have designed the program to be really efficient, so we are really not requesting any additional funds beyond just coverage for an administrative, the graduate coordinator, and credits for thesis overviews, which would be just a part of any master's program, but we are not asking for additional faculty members, full-time faculty members, or anything like that. And we've designed most of the courses to actually run as dual listed courses with undergraduate classes so that the faculty who are teaching it can continue to still participate fully in our undergraduate program. And we actually are eliminating our Bachelor's of Arts, which was a kind of extraneous program, so that we're not proliferating more programs. We're trying to do a one-for-one, so we're not doing that as well. Was there anything else? And we also actually, just the last thing I'll say before handing it off to Kathy or Mike is, we heard about how Southern has just earned this Research 2 really big deal. These kinds of programs actually produce great research publications. We have students at the undergraduate level who are writing and getting grants, who are publishing in peer-reviewed journal articles, and this will allow us to really strengthen that aspect of what Southern is doing as well. And with that, I'll pass to Kathy. I think Labadia is going to speak for a moment for us.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Labadia. I am from the Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office, and I am exceptionally pleased to be able to join you today to support this program on 3 levels, for the public benefit, my own personal experiences, and of course the economic implications. A recent nonprofit firm did a polling. 87% of Americans supported the statement that students should learn about archaeology in school at some point in their career. And 93% of those people polled said that the work of an archaeologist is important. And I think this is very telling at a time when it is hard to find broad support for anything. And I can attest to the fact that at any cocktail party, archaeologists are extremely popular, as well as the wildly well-viewed podcasts, a nod to Dr. Farley, that archaeology is in the public interest and people care about this work. We generally follow in one of 2 career paths. Either it's the research-oriented work that I think most people are familiar with in Indiana Jones, but most archaeologists are in the compliance sector. And it is largely this compliance sector based on state and federal laws that govern the environment, which is both natural and cultural, that require surveys in archaeology to happen. So for a lot of things like a box turtle habitat, you can see that. A historic structure, you can see that. And so it's easy to take into consideration those effects for projects. But for archaeology, it is very labor intensive because it requires a lot of survey work. And then after the surveys are done, you have to evaluate those archaeological deposits. And if those archaeology deposits cannot be avoided or removed for the project, then you go into what we call a mitigation. It involves a lot of people with archaeology degrees. And because it's compliance and governed by mostly federal laws, but a lot of state laws, there is this requirement to have a master's degree for oversight of any of these projects. And those individuals, archaeologists with master's degrees specific to compliance and local archaeology, are in short supply. And as you can imagine, the short supply results in a high demand. Right now in my office, it is a federal creation, so we have one in every state in all 9 territories. We have a 30% vacancy rate. I can say that that vacancy rate is similar for federal agencies who have these same requirements, and the vacancies are even more stark within private companies. It has been estimated that there will be a need for 3,000 new positions within the private sector, and that these are expected to continue for the next 10 years. So while Southern Connecticut now can prepare a student for those entry-level positions that have an average starting salary of about $45,000, the proposed program will prepare students to enter positions at that supervisory level that are typically in the range of 80 to 120,000. And I should add that when I talked about those 3,000 vacancies that are coming up, those are for the people with the master's degrees. They are in such high demand. Yeah,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one quick other thing, because I think it's equally important, that the social justice aspect of this, which is, I'm a first generation student, proud graduate of Central, but there was no opportunities in this state for me. And it is very difficult to find master's programs that are affordable in archaeology, period. This particular program in CRM, there is only one other east of the Mississippi River, so it will become a highly competitive in-demand program. I can assure you that. The other thing is archaeologists from an academic perspective have had a really fraught relationship with the Native American community. The compliance archaeology CRM has done a lot to repair those relationships. And so I think it is an important thing just for our local Indigenous communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments? It's the can we go on to questions and comments?
Yeah, I was wondering if Michael Rogers might want to add something.
I think Bill and Kathy did a great job summarizing everything and was pretty comprehensive. But let me just quickly say, years ago, I gave a weekday night talk to the Norwalk Community College Archaeology Club. The room was packed. The level of interest just generally is there to fill this program, let alone the specifics having to do with the professional track with CRM. So,
questions or comments from the regents?
Yeah,
I have a question.
Regent James.
Yes. Clearly you've made a very compelling case for both the timeliness, relevance, and demand for this type of program and work. However, we haven't really discussed the current circumstances that seem to be defunding or stopping progress on any work related, to this area. So I think my question is, I don't want to say we're salmon swimming upstream, but we are definitely trying to introduce something in an environment that right now seems to be going in the opposite direction. And one of the biggest challenges I think we have for new initiatives, or even current initiatives, is how we will obtain the right resources and funding in order to launch them, execute, and sustain them well. So can you speak to that?
So James, if I could speak to the funding and the resources, we are not at this juncture seeking any more full-time staff to support this program. We have the full-time staff that we need to launch the Masters in CRM. I'll leave the current political outlook to others on this call.
Could you speak? Can you speak up, please? Can you speak up, please?
Yes, I don't know. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
I'm the chair of the department, and I would like to speak a little bit to that. You folks had us do an APP report a couple years ago, really helped us focus in on where our strengths are. This program is tightly related to the STEM sciences as in archaeology, and we'll be drawing on other programs throughout Southern also, as well as reaching out to other campuses. We are the flagship program for anthropology in the CSU system. There's one anthropologist at Eastern and Western, and not very many at Central anymore. So we are already taking students from Eastern. One's going on a field school this summer with me. We have one working in our archaeology lab with Dr. Farley under a Connecticut Humanities grant. So we have facilities. We have a biological anthropology lab. We have an existing archaeology lab. We have a lot of resources on the ground. All that being said, I'd like to lay the groundwork for the fact that, as Bill mentioned, he started out as an undergraduate who needed to strengthen his application to graduate school, and stopping out to get a master's in archaeology enabled him to get into the very selective programs that are available. There's very few slots open for PhD students in anthropology. We've been in contact with UNH and also Quinnipiac. UNH specifically has a forensic science program. They have no anthropology on the undergraduate level, and they would like their students to get into forensic anthropology programs. think CSI, right? And this would be a great place for them to stop over. And you see in the application that we have support letters from different institutions, including UNH and Quinnipiac. We also have a relationship, a very strong relationship with Liverpool John Moores University. And there too, they do not have many terminal archaeology degrees. We will also be a terminal degree in archaeology. We'll be the only one in Connecticut and one of few in New England, and that will make us very competitive along with our accessibility. So why we focused on CRM, because when we were putting this together, it seemed like a really strong selling point. It is not the only track that we are focused on here. And as Michael mentioned, at his Norwalk Community College, presentation, we have already a lot of students who want to do this as kind of a enhancing or switching their careers midstream. So there's all of that. The other thing that I would really like to emphasize is, Kathy Labadia mentioned this as well. We have CRM firms in the state working at state and municipal levels. Those folks are Connecticut's small businesses that right now need to look elsewhere for their professionals. They came to us about this program. They were Bill Farley's connection with that community is kind of where we got birth for this program. And those are Connecticut small businesses. And we have Connecticut students who could stay in the state. As you well know, like 90% of our students come from Connecticut and stay in Connecticut. Right now, the programs that are out there, they're going to Albany, they're going to Boston, they're going to Binghamton to get firms to come and work in this state. If we cannot provide the students to fill those professions, it makes it more expensive for our businesses, for our construction industry, whether it's state or private, to do those projects. So there's a lot of really different reasons here that we need to support this program. And again, anthropology at Southern is an existing strong program, standalone department that has done great work for the last 26 years since we established it. And I think the time for expanding to this archaeology and, really doubling down on our strengths, it's a great program. And we are happy, by the way, to come back in a couple of years and look at how well we've done. We welcome that opportunity.
You make a very compelling case in terms of the marketability, the need, the appetite, the interest. My question was much more around the risk of sustaining what we already have, much less expanding and doing something like this, not because of the validity or the need for the program, but the whatever pressures we're feeling, or maybe we're not, about some of the work that we're already doing, much less the work that we want to expand into. So it's really more of we have to do this with our eyes wide open.
Yes, we absolutely agree. But we really, I think my point is that it's sustainable, even if things are rocky at the federal level. But as Bill has pointed out, and Kathy as well, this dedication to our historic heritage has traditionally and historically been a bipartisan, cause.
Well,
I'll let Bill.
I think that's one of the questions. I think, if I may interrupt, it has had bipartisan, but that seems to be disappearing in the current climate. And the program proposal, which is great. I mean, I think we all have the same. We think this is a great program, and I in a former life years ago, when I was in the Middle East, I actually visited several of these digs. I mean, I wasn't a participant, but
right.
And it's very exciting. This work is very exciting, but that's not the proposal references support from NEH, possible, and NSF, and we don't even know if these agencies are going to be there next week. I mean, this is, I think, the point that Regent James was making. And we're in a very strange climate
Regent Bloom,
at the
if I
moment.
may.
Would it be
Um,
possible for me to step in?
Yes,
Kathy. So I we have been discussing this. I myself have lost a number of NSF grants over the last number of weeks. I actually have an NEH grant that was approved, but I doubt I'll ever see the money. So we are not unaware of this. And one thing that I was thinking about a bit in preparation for this meeting is that if the impetus and the focus could kind of be changed a bit, is one way to look at this is that it is a protector of history, which is something that I hope that kind of anybody could get behind. That depending on what state you live in, it depends on kind of what the focus might be on history. But in fact, the kind of preservation of historical artifacts, just more generally, I think is something that could be a better approach. I also want to say that CRM was a focus, as Chair Skozen said, because there was such a clear need for workforce. But I don't think that this program is entirely about CRM. I think that the department has, for example, sunset the BA in archaeology as a way to just kind of maximize some of the work that they've been doing. So absolutely realistic and real approach. And I think that we could be sensitive to how to move this forward, and we'll be as flexible as we can.
If I may make just one comment as well, Regent Bloom.
please.
Please do bear in mind that the legislation that we're referring to is not just at the federal level, but there
Yes.
is ample state
And
legislation.
state and local also. Yeah, we do
Yes.
understand. We do understand that.
Thank you, sir.
The only thing I would add was some of the concerns I think, and I think they're reasonable about like grant funding from places like NSF. So we included in the proposal, which again we wrote close to 2 years ago at this point, the initial drafts, that at the time the demand was so great that we were getting requests from like Chris Murphy's office to reach out for federal funding to try and support this sort of thing.
Yes, and so your proposal made that clear, and we understand.
Yeah, but we don't. I should make it really clear: we don't actually need that money for the program. We've designed the program to run on available resources. But I'm sort of the opinion that if there's money out there to try and get, I'm certainly going to try and do it, because then we can do things like offer more graduate assistantships to students, which would make it even more accessible. That's honestly probably what I would mostly ask for if I was going to reach out, spread a grant or something for this program, because we want to increase that accessibility to some of our students at Southern who have wanted to do this kind of thing for years, but have told us, they can't, because they can't move to Maryland or SUNY Buffalo or somewhere like that, because they have kids, because they are taking care of their elderly parents, because they have to keep a job and do those sorts of things. It ends up being an accessibility issue as well, and this would provide them a way to do that. But the program right now can run with the available funds, and that's how we want to do it. But certainly in the future, if things change and those kinds of funds become available again, well, I'm certainly going to apply for them, but they would be additive, is I guess the point that I really want to make. Yeah.
Any further?
I think I can directly answer your question. This week is Historic Preservation Advocacy Week in Washington, D.C. So we've just met with our federal delegation, as well as all of our lobbyists that would be directly affecting this industry. It is a large industry. There is redundancy within the federal laws, there's redundancy within state laws, and there's redundancy in local laws. It is our understanding that there is no appetite for the current administration, and every administration changes. This one is perhaps a little bit more extreme than we've seen in the past. There is no appetite to dismantle these laws. What they're looking at, the ones that primarily affect us, and like I said, there is the redundancy, there's multiple federal laws that we work under. The appetite is more for implementation. And so this program is so desperately needed. for that implementation. Because where we do not want to find ourselves is at a point of, hey, you guys have such a shortage and nobody's working on fixing it. So we are going to change the way the laws are implemented so that they are either eased up, we put less care or concern into them, we change the regulations. And that's where we don't want to be. This program would be a great thing to go back to our senators and say, hey, when you're rebutting some of the proposed changes, show that we are making an effort to change how it is that we implement these things. The other thing that I will say is these are not programs that run off of NEH or NSF. They run through the Historic Preservation Fund, and that HPF funding has already been improved for the next 2 years because it does have bipartisan interest, and even with the current administration.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we've had a very interesting and illuminating discussion. I think it's if the committee members are ready, I think we can move to a vote on this proposal. Any further comments from the regents? Okay. I'm motion to approve the Archaeology and Cultural Resource Management Master of Science at Southern. All those in favor?
I'll make
Aye.
that motion.
I'm sorry?
I'll second.
Okay.
Rick made the motion. I'm second.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It is approved. We wish you luck. I hope your optimistic view of this is sustained. But we'll see. But thank you
very,
I think
very
this
much, Regent
made a
Brewer.
great presentation. So
We'll come back in 2 years and let you know.
we will want to see you in 2 years. For
Yes,
you to
we
let us know.
Happy to do so. Thank you so much for hearing us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a one. Next item is Central. Provost Costello, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
First, we have your academic update, and then you have the new program, the Master of Science in Cybersecurity, plus a tenure recommendation, plus a below threshold item.
Yes,
Floor is
so
yours.
I'll just mention that we've been doing lots of little things, lots of collaboration, and busy at things. For example, there's a lot going on even just today. We have a junior achievement challenge that's going on, and the theme of it is artificial intelligence applications with high school students and our students. We also have our Center for Social and Emotional Learning partnering with K-12 folks that's on campus today as well. And just as another connection to some of the work that's been presented here recently, our banking excellence certificate that was just approved recently, we're launching that with industry partners, and there's a banking event that we're having in April, the beginning of April, to launch that. And again, that certificate was in response to a lot of the industry feedback. So it's nice to see that we were able to deliver on the industry's recommendations and the partnership as well. Lots of other things, lots of collaborations. Worked hard on the 5-year sustainability plan that I'll just kind of mention that are realistic goals that we put in place, and looking forward to that and hoping that there's no continued cuts that will impact our students and programs. And with that, sort of it ties into, I know when I was here last time presenting the MS in artificial intelligence, I mentioned that this master's in cybersecurity is also coming forth for this meeting. Again, it's been a long process and a long planning that's not only focused on the academic aspect of things, but the IT, facilities, personnel, and then the curriculum aspect of things. So excited to see a lot of the collaborations that we have, as well as looking at the efficiencies and continuing to move towards innovation. So with that, if I can present the MS in the cybersecurity unless there's any other questions.
Please go ahead. Yes.
Great. So as I mentioned before, this is part of a larger and long-standing plan, is to have the Masters in Cybersecurity. They've done a great job utilizing many existing courses within various programs in our software engineering and our computer information technology, as well as other ones from our Masters of Science in Artificial Intelligence that just went through. And also it aligns with our existing recognition from the National Security Agency. We are recognized, the only institution in New England that's recognized for both cyber operations and cyber defense. And so this curriculum also aligns with that as well. And it is focused to allow undergraduate students who may have that technical background to progress right into the master's. That would allow them to not have to focus on some of those core courses so that they can expand on opportunities to take more electives and more specialized. However, there's opportunities if you don't have that background, that you have space in the curriculum to be able to get up to speed, as well as focused on working professionals too. So it really adapts to those who may be in this field already, those who are transitioning to this field too as well, and is also connected to a lot of our accelerated programs that we have in place and will have more in place once this is established, that allows many different undergraduate degrees into many different master's degrees depending on the areas of expertise as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I'll just also mention that our undergraduate computer science program on average has over 400 students completion each year. Our enrollments are even higher. So we're also know that we have a feeder there as well as from externally too. We were more conservative in some of our budget proposals, because we would rather make sure we meet our goals and achieve those, similar to what we did with the Masters in Social Work. I think we estimated 10, and in our first year we got 30, and have over 42 for this coming fall. So just mentioning that we're trying to make sure that we're setting realistic goals and try to exceed those at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the regents?
One question, do you have the capacity to support this expanded growth and interest in
Yes, so we've been adding reallocating, I should say, faculty lines to this department. They're not new. They are from other retirements from other departments that were not needed, although I know faculty are always needed, so I say that cautiously. But the demand right now is in
I'd
these
be
programs.
cautious in how you phrase that, but
Yes. But the need right now is in this area. So we have already reallocated faculty lines that are already in the process. We've already made 3 offers, and we have another one in progress to meet some of the demand as well. So they are not new positions, they're reallocated at this point.
as a follow-up question, the offers, this is a high demand area where qualified faculty are in high demand, and
Yes.
are we able to recruit the people we need to
Yes,
accomplish?
but
I
I'll
mean,
be
we're
honest,
talking about
it has
two
been a
new
challenge.
two
Yeah.
new lines here for this program.
Well, and last year, we also searched for some of these positions, and we only were able to get one. So this year we had restarted the search, and we're hopeful that we're almost signing 2 more, and we have some more in the pipeline. But it is, I will certainly agree that it has been very challenging to get the faculty, but that is across the board in all universities, the challenge of recruiting, and then furthermore retaining the faculty.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we competitive in this in this, I mean, do we have the salary levels that are competitive in this area?
What we've done is advertise for assistant or associate so that we can be more competitive, but that also that salary can match their experience. Because obviously they would need to qualify to be in that associate professor ranking level. However, it just allows us some more flexibility, especially if they're coming with industry experience. We can utilize that as comparative standards to be able to utilize and hire them at the associate level so that we can be more competitive.
Other questions or comments from the regents? Okay. Motion to approve the Cybersecurity Master of Science program as presented.
So
I'll
moved.
make that motion. I'll second.
Second. Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion is carried. Program will
Thank
be
you.
recommended to the board. We have your tenure recommendation. Do you want to say a word or two about that?
Sure. This was a January hire. It's a counselor in our student wellness area that was recommended for tenure in December.
Any comments or questions? Motion to approve the tenure recommendation.
So moved.
Says move
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Tenure recommendation will be recommended to the full board, approved by the committee.
Thank you.
And we have a one below threshold item, which is the Bachelor of the Wildlife Conservation new option within the BS in biology. How many students are in that program?
Off the top of my head, I probably should know that, but I don't have that number right off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean,
In the future, I think the numbers should you can communicate the number to Ainsley and we'll have it. We don't. This is below threshold, so it does not require an approval. So thank you, Provost Costello, and appreciate it, and good luck with things moving forward.
Thanks.
Okay. Provost Ferreira.
Okay. Happy Friday. I'm going to give some brief updates, and I'm happy to go into the School of Education, if that's okay.
The School of Education, yes.
Yeah.
So
So just
you're
for
on.
a couple of, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so for just a couple of brief updates, and this is kind of as a follow-up to one of the earlier agenda items about the enrollment update, because Charter Oak has 2 terms, and so our census comes in after March. But I can give you some rough estimates of where we are based upon our enrollment as of last Friday. And enrollment doesn't anticipate to kind of fluctuate too much between now and census. But our number of students were up 16.6% compared to last year, 25.5% compared to 2 years ago. Our number of credits is up 17.1% compared to last year and 33.7% compared to 2 years ago. Our registration rate, which is in essence semester to semester retention, is up to 83.6 versus 82.8 last year. As far as our new students, because it's not only about our continuing, but also our new, we're up a number of students on our associate and bachelor's degree, about 66 students on our new associate and bachelor's compared to last year. Our continuing students is plus over 100 because again we had a large entrant class the year before, and that has a wave effect. Our masters are down a little bit, which is again why we're going to be talking about the School of Ed. But our number of certificates, the number of new students into our certificate programs is up by 65 students compared to last year. And if you remember, we actually shut down about 3/4 of our certificates through our academic program planning because those were certificates that did not have value. So it again shows that when we do add certificates of value, like our Child Development Associate certificate we recently did, many more students are going to be here, and we're going to have a much more efficient set of programs and a better overall experience for the students. And so those are just some numbers as far as from an enrollment update and what you can kind of expect where Charter Oak will land upon census. There was a discussion about kind of retention rates, a question there. One thing that I think is really important to note when we talk about retention or graduation rates and things of that nature is that I think each CSCU institution has a little bit of a uniqueness to it, right? We're a little bit unique in our missions by state statute. So from Charter Oak perspective, we actually compare ourselves to other public online universities. And so if you were to compare ourselves to two of the nearby public online universities, that would be Empire State University in New York and Thomas Edison State University in New Jersey, obviously geographically very, very close to us. Thomas Edison's graduation rate is 43%. Empire State University's is 47%. Charter Oak State College's graduation rate is 56%. So we do very well, comparatively speaking, to our institutions where we should compare ourselves to. And so those are really kind of points of pride, but based upon the questions, I did want to give a little bit of that data to the regions to help put some context behind some of the numbers. And those retention rates and those graduation rates are you can find on the college scorecard, which is based on IPEDS data. Just two quick things. As far as a point of pride, it just got announced yesterday. We're actually a founding member of the Connecticut AI Alliance. That is a coalition of 16 academic institutions and 6 community organizations and not-for-profit agencies that are going to collaborate with the goal of establishing Connecticut as a premier hub for artificial intelligence innovation and application. So we're really proud to be a part of that group and look forward to working with our fellow institutions across the state. Again, leveraging each other's strengths to come up with an overall arching artificial intelligence, workforce development and innovation plan that benefit the residents and the businesses of Connecticut. And then lastly, and this is news as of this morning, actually for those that were maybe at NECHI, there was a meeting at NECHI yesterday. Our Masters in Curriculum and Instruction, which the Regents approved last semester, because Charter Oak does not have many master's degree programs yet. We do have to still fill out substantive change proposals. That substantive change proposal for our new master's degree was approved by NECHI yesterday, so we are very much good to go. We'll get a formal letter in a few weeks. So those are some of the updates I do have, but I'll pause for any questions before we go into the School of Ed.
Congratulations on that.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so leading off of the curriculum and instruction.
Comments from the Regents?
Oh, sorry.
That was
No, I just think I was going to say congratulations. That's very good news. So
That's a good report. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. So as you see over in the agenda, that as part of our growth strategy at Charter Oak State College, is that we have not been large enough yet to actually form schools like you would see from universities. We call them schools because obviously we are a college. We're Charter Oak State College, so having a college within a college would be a little bit difficult, right? And one of the areas that has, I think, the greatest potential for not only has been growing, as you see in the agenda and in our report, but then continues to grow, would be in our education areas. We've done a lot of great things specifically with early childhood education, but there is still, I think, a lot of work to be done in the realm of overall education. And obviously, there's still critical teacher shortages across the state of Connecticut. And so by establishing a school of education, we're looking on how we can contribute, again, in a unique way, as a complementary way towards what's currently available to be able to help fill some of those critical shortages. And with me is Dr. Maureen Hogan, who's with our education department. And if there's anything I missed or anything you would like to add, Dr. Hogan, would love to turn on over to you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for just listening. It's been a great meeting to attend, actually, and to learn from. We really want to just focus on growing educators in Connecticut, and perhaps in time, maybe New York or Massachusetts, but right now we're focused on Connecticut. Just industry shortage areas, that's all we're looking to do. And so we're looking for career changers who maybe stopped out of college when they were at another of the SCUs, somebody getting out of the military, for instance, who may want to attend school online and become an educator in our school districts in Connecticut. We know that there are many teacher shortage areas, so we're not trying to do elementary education or any undergraduate certification programs at all. What we're wanting to do is, as Dave mentioned, is to grow our undergraduate degree programs in early childhood education that are non-certification. And through the scaling committee that I had the opportunity to serve on, we were able to learn that the state of Connecticut, OEC, the Office of Early Childhood, actually needs in the range of, they said 3,500 to 5,000 early childhood educators in the next few years. So that's a huge number. So right now we have 550 enrolled. We're on track to be at 700 early childhood undergraduate students in the next year. But in terms of teacher certification area, we have many of our existing students who want to stay with us to go into a teacher cert area. And again, SDE, as well as the Office of Early Childhood, we just need educators. And so we want to focus on specifically early childhood to get started, but then look to grow from early childhood into some other areas. But once again, only teacher shortage areas. So we're open to any questions you might want to ask.
Questions or comments from the Regents?
I commend you for focusing on a niche as opposed to trying to cover too many different areas. I think that is a very smart strategy. Thank you.
How does the creation of the school advantage what you're trying to do here?
I think from a marketing perspective, it gives us an opportunity to just do some different types of marketing to establish ourselves as a school that really wants to focus on those teacher shortage areas. So we definitely want to use some marketing with it. I think that different emphasis will be on not just marketing, but also working with admissions. So we're going to assign somebody separately to work on admissions, specifically to go out into communities to find those who might be interested in changing careers and going into education. So we're going to, by coming together as a school, we're going to have different conversations that are really focused conversation on growing educators. Whereas right now, the school's focus is let's do admissions, let's do recruitment for a college. We're going to do it now specifically for a college or a school of education. So a lot of brainstorming with many different people. Whereas again, right now, we don't have that same focus. We're going to put a lot of emphasis on admissions and recruitment for career changers.
Yeah. And what I would piggyback off of, I think Dr. Hogan did really well there, and I would also highlight that this allows us an opportunity as an overall college to look at our organizational chart. And for example, we would, as part of our plan of having a dean of the School of Education, as Dr. Hogan mentioned, as part of our admissions team, actually bringing on an admissions counselor where they would have that line over towards the school, so that it's really has that type of focus to help grow in this really crucial area. As part of Charter Oak's plan over into the future, I said we would like to start to organizationally be more in alignment with a university that's actually of larger size. This being our first one over here, because I think it has the greatest potential, as Dr. Hogan mentioned. Going from 300 to 400 to 500 to soon 700. When you start to get into departments of that size, we really start to, from an organizational structure, need to start to approach it from a school to be most effective.
We've grown consistently over the past 5, 6, 7 years. And to look at the numbers in our education department, it's just amazing. I don't even know where all the growth is coming from, but we're excited to have so many applicants coming in. And we'd like to be able to just put more emphasis on supporting them. And we think that this School of Education will really allow us to give our applicants and students all the supports that they need.
Other comments or questions?
I'll only say that, like Juanita, this is encouraging because it's focused on high need areas and emerging areas, and the numbers indicate a real interest, a real need in this kind of instruction. So I certainly appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you. Motion to approve the establishment of the School of Education at Charter Oak State College.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Approved. Thank you very much.
Thank
you
you.
both.
Thank you.
We're now going to travel to the eastern part of the state. Dr. Pauly, are you here?
Ira, it's read what Dr. Pauly had to leave.
He had to leave. Okay.
So
we don't have a report.
State, and then he has one small.
Pam, you're cutting out.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to turn off my tunnel going on right now. Is that better without my camera on?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
He indicated that he had one small program application passed by University Senate on Tuesday. There are two more will be voted on at next University Senate meeting in a week and a half. And there are external reviewers for the academic program review process that are coming to campus over the next coming weeks. Those are the updates.
Okay, so those will be moving along the pipeline, I gather. Dr. Stevens, two programs will be moving up the pipeline. Okay.
I think we lost her, but I believe so.
Yeah, okay. Yep. I know you keep track of this, Kayla, so okay. Let's try our luck with Western. Dr. Hagedus.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I had a fill-in last time. I appreciate that. Good morning, Regents. My updates fall under a few categories. First, last week, exactly last week, we celebrated the School of Graduate International Career Studies. That's a reconfiguration of a previous division of graduate studies, and we were joined by the Chancellor and other dignitaries. There were some great remarks made. Our local mayor was there. Kelly Valeris from the Office of Workforce Development was there. She actually was our keynote speaker, and it was great having Kelly there, Dr. Valeris there, because of the connections that we're trying to do and expand within this new configuration that not only focuses on graduate but adult and lifelong learning. And we actually did launch our first micro-credential. Thank Dr. Ferreira as well, Charter Oak, for helping us with that to springboard that new micro-credential. And that's the space that we are looking for, just in very niche areas as well, with our local workforce, our local region, and the businesses within that area. We're also, one came forward, and there'll be a packet more of accelerated programs that have that 4+1, the 5-year approach to undergrad to graduate for many of our present and future undergraduate students that we see would value, save money and time to get them advanced in their qualifications. So there'll be more of those coming forward now with having that new reconfiguration, that new structure. There's been a lot of effort around that, guidelines to help faculty to develop that, and then marketing. And our applicants for fall admissions in the graduate space are up as well as we expected, as this becomes a strategic focus for us when looking at the enrollment management plan fully across the university both undergrad and grad. Dr. Blanchard mentioned earlier on in his agenda item those spring to spring enrollments. In part, this has become at Western because of a renewed effort around dual and concurrent enrollment. We've seen a very large increase. We established or re-established 7 MOUs with school districts in our Greater Danbury region last fall. And again, with having a faculty liaison dedicated to that work, we've seen, I think we're close to 300 this spring in students signed up. So that is part of why those went up. But even without that, we had a 4.53% increase. And I see that largely to do with the ongoing efforts of multiple departments within our institution around recruitment, transfer, financial aid, as well as some of the changes we've made academic policy-wise for retention of our students. Our suspension policy was revised last year in collaboration with the Senate, and we've already seen that has an impact. So that feeds into our ongoing work to redefine our retention plan. A lot of great work that's already going on in that space, but I think our retention rates were highlighted earlier on. There's been some flux there. We certainly got some room for improvement. It's around 70% at the moment. So we're putting this all together in a plan that really falls into 3 buckets: the academic programming, the wraparound student support services, and thirdly, the financial aid. So within those 3 areas, we're going to be specifying particular targets and areas that we can focus on and see if these different projects actually working and have an impact on student retention. So we're going to get very structured in that area. And where necessary, we need to invest or redeploy resources. If we find that there's an impact in a particular area that yields a good positive retention, then that becomes where we strategically invest our few resources that we have, but it really does benefit our overall student success. So much work is going on there, noting that we have some room for growth. And finally, as a quick update around NETCHI, we have President Burks will be visiting us this Monday from Plymouth State. He's our team lead for our site visit in October, and he'll be coming to our campus. I'll be meeting with him to have an informal discussion about our work, where we're at, and setting up the logistics for that site visit, which will be in, I believe, the first week. It's the 7th and 8th of October. So I'm looking forward to that visit and his feedback and guidance, and I'll update you all on that. So work is still in progress, and those. Am I missing anything? I'm looking at my notes because there's always lots of good stuff to report out. I think I'm good, Regent Bloom. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I take it your interim report to NETCHI was well received?
Yes. We've got some good feedback. I think my colleague reported some of that out at the last meeting, which I couldn't make. And he works closely with me. And then President Burks has received that as well. And so he just emailed me during this meeting. So he's thankful of that, and it will help structure our conversation going forward if he feels that there needs to be attention in certain areas. So yeah, we're good.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Provost Huggins. Appreciate it. Dr. Baker, Connecticut State Community College. Dr. Baker, are you with us?
I am. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy this meeting. A lot of good work being shared. It's a pleasure to be a part of it. Provost Heineck is unable to.
Could you just speak up? Could you speak up a little bit?
I can. Yes. Is this better?
Yeah.
Provost Heineck is not able to be here, so she asked me to share some things. Summer enrollment cycle has opened. Plans for the enrollment cycle for fall begin April 1st. Students are completing letters of intent to graduate, and plans are underway for CT State's second commencement cycle There will be 12 ceremonies happening between May 21st and 27th. CT State is currently working with CTEX, Connecticut Technical Education System, and we're trying to expand opportunities in dual enrollment by pathway. Provost Heineck will share an update about that work, which we hope to launch in the fall. She'll share that next time. This spring, the academic affairs deans, program coordinators, department chairs are working with marketing to update all of our program pages to drive enrollment and to provide greater transparency for students. Two final notes. Provost Heineck presented last time to this group about the ACME policy and the ACME progress. CT State shared governments and the ACME leadership collaborating on recommendations to be shared with this group, hopefully in time for the May meeting. And the final note is a kudo to Tunxus. The Connecticut Dental Health Partnership recognized the Tunxus Dental Hygiene Program as one of Connecticut's 2025 Oral Health Heroes for their work and community outreach in their civic engagement for the dental hygienist course. Over the past 2 years, the Dental Hygiene Program has collaborated with the Dental Health Partnership on multiple events and initiatives to promote health education, and Tunxus students actively participate at the Husky Dental pop-up resource centers, conducting several risk assessments, providing comprehensive oral health care to our community members. Very proud of them.
That's great. That really is. It's often dental health is often not neglected and neglected until some catastrophe occurs. So I think that's great. The outreach is great, I think. Any questions or comments from the regents?
Ira, it's Rick. Just a real quick comment. I appreciate the effort to look at CT State's online presence and marketing too. I've actually spent a fair amount of time on that website recently, trying to help some folks out, and it's good, and it, as far as I can tell, it provides all the necessary information. But one thing to consider would be how to share information not only about course content with regard to certificates or degree programs, but also right there to talk about cost and to talk about potential financial aid. Again, it's a good website now, and you can get that information. But if someone could go to one screen or just a couple screens and get that information for a particular course of studies or certificate program, I think it would make it a lot easier for people.
I appreciate the observation. That's exactly the work that we're doing. We're going to provide significant additional information, including job prospects, anticipated salary at entrance level, transfer opportunities to schools where we have 2+2s in place, and more.
That's great. That's exciting, actually. And I think it could make a big difference for people.
Agreed. Thank you.
Regent James?
I think another exciting element, and probably not this first round of updates because you're working on so many things, is to begin a library of testimonials from our various graduates and alumni about some of the compelling success stories. We need to promote the successes of our institutions, and the web is a really good, as you're exploring, it's nice to have these, whether they're little video vignettes. Again, you have other things that have more priority, but incorporating that, into future enhancements, I'm hoping we'll be able to do that as well.
I appreciate that observation, and indeed, that's also part of the work. We are acquiring student testimonials, faculty testimonials, employer testimonials about students they've hired. And we're packaging all that for as many programs as we have that information. In our art and design programs, we could fill volumes. So that will be a part of the upgrade, indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes the agenda items. Any good and welfare comments from the regents before we go off If not,
As usual, just a very informative, interesting, engaging meeting. So thank you, Chairroom, and thank you to all of you who are not only working diligently, but also working to educate us and inform us on the work that you're doing. So
I agree. Thanks, Juanita.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants
So
to.
moved.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Meeting is hereby adjourned.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Anyway, thank you for your. We can stop the video and
Your live stream stop.
thank
Thank
you.
you.